What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Karbitov, and today I got something special for y'all. I'm gonna talk about 10 things I wish I knew when I first started lifting 3.5 years ago. If you guys haven't been keeping up my progress, I have a transformation video. I'll link it in the description below. Make sure you check it out. Now let's get right into what this video is about. Alright guys, so tip number 1. Make sure that when you're at the gym, when you're first starting out, you're focusing on form. Basically what I mean by that is focus on the contraction. Let's say you're doing something like bench press. Make sure that you're going down slowly. You're doing your negative reps, which basically means you're gonna go down onto your chest with the bench press very slowly and then up. If you want, you can pause at the very bottom because that's gonna help tear a little bit more of the muscle and it's gonna help you gain a lot more size. Form is probably one of the biggest components in terms of training and gaining size, putting on muscle, putting on strength, and make sure you don't forget to focus on that most of all when you're training. Alright guys, now let's move on to tip number 2, which will be diet. Now you knew this one was coming. Nutrition is the #1 key factor in determining how much size you put on or how much fat you'll lose throughout a cut. Nutrition is probably the most important aspect of bodybuilding as a whole or just fitness in general. Nutrition is a big part of your health and it's very, very important that you make sure you're eating clean, getting your calories and getting your protein in and things like that if you want to be optimizing your training and making sure that all your muscles recover. So now that we move on to tip number 3, tip number 3 is more so a myth. It's just kind of like, I guess it's a tip, but what's tip number 3 is the whole idea that you can't eat carbs after 6. Now, no carbs after 6 is one of the biggest misconceptions in health, fitness, and in the entire bodybuilding world. It's simply not true, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I don't want anybody to get held up or confused in this misconception in terms of nutrition. Tip number 4, another misconception or another myth. I see a lot of kids nowadays, even kids my age, kids a little bit younger, kids a little bit older, and they're telling me that they're intaking 300 grams of protein a day, 350 grams of protein a day. Now the biggest problem with that is that your body cannot process that much protein, and a lot of it's gonna end up going to waste. If you want optimal results, keep your protein at about 0.8 to 1.1 grams of protein per body weight in pounds. That will give you optimal results, and that's in terms of bulking. If you are cutting, keep it between 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per body weight in pounds, depending on how lean you are already. The leaner you get, the more protein you intake. But you don't ever need to intake 350 grams of protein if you're weighing 150, 160 pounds, hell, even 180. My protein when I was bulking up was 185 grams. Keep that tip in mind. It's very important. Going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money. Tip number 5, do not be afraid to ask questions. Now, I cannot tell you how many times I went around asking people at my gym the same exact question over and over and over again. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wanted to know if there is anybody else that's training differs from mine. Make sure you ask questions because at the end of the day, you're better off getting the answer you already know to a question you already know than doing something wrong for months on months on months on end. Another thing, let's say you come up to somebody and you ask them a question, they give you an answer. Great, they gave you a dope answer, but let's say somebody tells you something. Just because they said that does not mean it's always the right thing to do. And a little addition to this tip, make sure you do your research. Because when it comes to bodybuilding, there's nobody that can find out more information other than yourself. Alright guys, now we move on to tip number 6. Now tip number 6 is also very, very important because I see a lot of kids nowadays doing this. Supplementation. Now I remember when I first started lifting, and I'm guilty of this as well, I came to GNC, grabbed everything off the shelves that looked pretty and colorful because that's exactly what salesmen, keyword salesman at GNC told me to do. What you want to do. Now the purpose of supplements, it's in the name. It's supposed to supplement both your training, your diet, and your rest. The only supplements that I myself would recommend to you are L-arginine, maybe whey protein, and glutamine. Alright guys, so now we move on to tip number 7. Now tip number 7 will be make sure that if you are having trouble staying motivated at the gym, you know, you're falling back on your training, you're falling back on your diet, set goals for yourself. And every day you're going to get closer and closer to those goals and you're going to have something to keep in mind while you're training. It's very important to set goals for yourself because 1, that's going to keep you motivated. 2, you're going to have something to strive for. And that's very, very important. Tip number 8. This is very, very important and I wish I took this advice when I was younger. If you're a teenager and you are looking to find a diet that's going to help you cut, if you're looking to compete, 9 out of 10 times, don't. You're young. You're still a teenager. Who do you have to impress? Bulk up, build a great foundation for your body, and then when you're in your 20s, cut down and unveil a godlike physique. That's one of the most important tips that I can give you in teen bodybuilding. Most beginners out there, they're not really concerned with being big or anything like that. Now the thing is, a lot of these kids are gonna cut down to crazy low levels of body fat percentage. They're gonna end up putting their health at risk. When I was younger, all I cared about was being shredded, this and that. And at the end of the day, I spent a long time being miserable because all I cared about was, oh, let's get shredded, this and that. And I'm telling you guys, bulk when you're young. When you're in your 20s, you're going to look better than you ever imagined. Number 9 is sleep. I cannot stress this point enough. This is one of the most important things in anything. When you sleep, that is when your body has time to recover. That is when you're growing, especially if you're young. I see a lot of young kids out here that are telling me they're sleeping 2-3 hours a day. Now, I understand if you have priorities. But in terms of if you want to build muscle, if you want to get stronger, you need sleep. Sleep is when you recover. And it's honestly in terms of lifting, nutrition, and everything that goes into building a nice physique, nice aesthetic physique, sleep is the most important thing. Tip number 10, gotta leave one of the most important ones for last. Now tip number 10 is something that's self-explanatory, but very, very important. I see a lot of people very, very worried about it. Leave your ego at home, guys. When you're at the gym, you're very, very prone to injury. You know, you're pumping blood into your muscles, you're lifting very, very heavy pieces of metal. I see a lot of kids, you know, you might be 145 pounds and you're going for that crazy bench that you've been lying to your friends about, and you want to hit it for the first time. What's the purpose? What's the point of making yourself vulnerable to an injury that's going to have you out of the gym for maybe 3-4 months? Why not go a little bit lighter instead? Focus on form more so and actually build the muscle you're looking for. Alright YouTube, this concludes today's video. If you like it, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check me out on Instagram. Add me on Snapchat. Thank you for watching.